Day 3 of the world's group stage is upon us, with Korea currently on a shocking 1-4 record. We'll see if one of the tournament favorites, KT Rolster, can continue to keep the hope alive as they look to take down the squad from the LMS Mad Team in our first game of the day. Here you see some of the players making their way into the arena a short time ago, readying up as we speak. I'm James Dash Patterson here for World's Countdown alongside Indiana Frosker in black, Andrew Vedius Day, and Joshua Jat Leesman here for the third day of group stages already, though we have seen so much excitement, so many upsets, things we didn't expect, people living up to expectation, exceeding, people underselling or being underwhelming. Vedius, since you're the first time you're on the desk with me here, what has been your impression of the first 2 days of group so far?
I mean, it's been phenomenal. I think the biggest upset was Cloud9 beating Vitality. That was probably
That was the biggest one. Yeah.
Probably the biggest surprise to me. But no, I've really enjoyed the first 2 days. I think the fact that Europe came up clutch day 1 was exciting to see. Yesterday, not quite the same performance. Couldn't quite close out some very important games, and G2 being upset by PVB means that Group A is really shaping up to be a very competitive and close group.
Very much so. With a fourth of the group stage games in the books, the LMS champions Flash Wolves are undefeated in Group A alongside LPL powerhouse Royal Never Give Up in Group B. Now the teams in Group C are making the return to the Rift today with KD and EDG both at 1-0, the same as Fnatic and Invictus Gaming over in Group D. The big story so far, though, at the group stage has been the Korean teams, who are uncharacteristically the worst performing region, albeit after only 2 days.
So insane. Last year in the group stage, the LCK only lost 3 games over the 8 days. So the fact that they've lost 4 of their first 5 is absolutely incredible to me. And then on top of that, you have to think of the teams they lost to on day 1, which was both G2 and Vitality. Those teams then went on to lose to other teams in the group stage. So it's definitely worrying for the Korean teams. A lot of people do expect some type of rebound.
It's also the way that they're losing. Now, I will say that I feel like day 1 was upsets, and then day 2 was simply strength of schedule, the fact that they faced both the Flash Wolves as well as RNG. So I don't think it's really indicative of how Korea is going right now, simply because day 1, day 2, we already saw massive improvements from both Afrika and Jinji.
But I do feel that so far at this tournament, Korea has not been performing up to the expectations that we've seen from the past. And I do think that how the meta has shifted has really affected them as well, given that one of the big ones we saw earlier in the year was the amount of vision that's really limited on the map right now. And I just think that you can't play that smart, controlled style that Korea was always known for. They had such a good understanding of how to play League of Legends that they often use that superior knowledge to dictate the pace and control games. That's not the case anymore. It's more down to individual skill, strong team fighting, and being able to force around some big neutral objectives.
But the expectation for Korea as a region has always been there, right? Regardless of meta, given that they've won the previous 6 world championships, you're looking at this region to be dominant.
Absolutely. And the fact that it's a home tournament for them. They have been playing the group stage from Korea. Looking at the 4 games they've lost, if you wanted to be a Korean apologist, you could point to the Baron steal against Vitality, or the Heimer disrespect, or the fact that RNG and Flash Wolves are really good, and suddenly you've tried to excuse away those 4 games. But as a region that is famous for making excuses, those don't matter when you lose games at the World Championship. The fact of the matter is they've lost 4 games already, and if they want to not have a historically bad group stage, they can't lose again in the next 6 days.
I also think individually there are some big holes to really poke at in terms of Afrika and Jinji. You know, Crown not necessarily stepping up. We had a couple of questions around how he was going to perform in that mid lane, and as well as the bottom lane for Afrika. Tucson, especially on that Alistair performance, wasn't great there. Whereas you look at KT, I mean, if you're talking about this meta right now is about the dominance in terms of individual skill. You look at the top 20 list, a lot of those KT members all there, like right crammed towards the top. I mean, all of Korea's power is just consolidated on one team, and that's the undefeated team.
Well, 2 days in, quite obviously, the picture of the standings doesn't match really what any of us had in mind, but I wanted to see how that also compared to World's Pick'ems, right? See what the vast majority of people thought when it came specifically to the Korean team. So as you see here, 32% of people picked Genji Esports to be last in the group.
Why do you think that is, Dad?
I think there's probably a few factors that can play into this. Number 1, the rebrand, right? There's probably a subset of people that aren't aware of the fact that Genji is Samsung Galaxy, the defending world champions from just last year. The other thing is that alphabetically, they're just the last team in the group. So if you were lazy and didn't really want to do some research, you kind of like did half your pick'ems and then hit submit or whatever.
What are you suggesting? Are you suggesting that 32% of pick'ems are not
didn't do their homework? No, not yet.
I mean, the third option is that there are a of
brilliant.
genius
Exactly.
out there.
Yeah.
They
And that's the
read
thing.
the meta. They saw the downfall of Korea. They knew the pressure would get to them. I'm more of the optimistic approach.
You're
I
right.
believe in the.
Shame on me for discrediting those 32% of people that chose Gen G to finish last in their group. With these results in mind, though, Jad, I gave you some homework. I asked you to give us an updated power rankings for us ahead of day 3.
Right, so these were my pre-group power rankings with KT Roasters of favorites, RNG right behind him, and these are my post-day 2 power rankings and the changes that you have.
Yes, this is some great power rankings.
So,
I love this.
even though we've only seen one game out of KT Roaster, the 2 games we've seen out of RNG and the way we talk about this team now is like they are this behemoth. You make one mistake, they've lost. I want to pull those up again so we can reference them at some point as well.
Okay.
Because right below that, KT Roaster didn't dominate Team Liquid in the way that you would have wanted them to compared to the way that RNG did. Flash Wolves made a massive surge. I'm definitely on that hype train. And what do you think about the rest of the standings, which had Fnatic in 4th and IG in 5th?
I mean, the one thing that I actually really want to grab is Invictus Gaming even making it to top 5. Now, I know that Gen G did get upset, but we've seen more footage of Gen G, and their game against Royal Never Give Up was quite competitive. So the fact that you put Royal at #1 and then bumped IG down underneath Fnatic makes sense. Fnatic were much more dominant in their victory, but I still think that even in the loss that Gen G had against RNG, they proved that RNG can bleed, and I think that they were still much more competitive than IG. So that's kind of like the biggest circle that I really draw.
So
around.
in that, would you suggest taking IG out of 5 and just slotting Gen G in at that 5, or do you think Gen G's even higher up the list?
I mean, they have to get on the board first to start moving it, but I
Okay.
think they are actually the 5th strongest team right now.
So I'm actually doubtful of this Flash Wolves one because based on how Group A is playing out, I feel like Afrika Freaks are underperforming. I feel like G2 is inconsistent as they always have been, and I feel like PvB are yet to really kind of contest. Well, we haven't really seen how they match up against Flash Wolves, so I think Flash Wolves are in a group where they look better than they actually are.
Okay.
And so I think coming into like quarterfinals and going up against some other, if they were in different groups, I do not think they would look as convincing.
Are you arguing
So
that
to me-
Fnatic goes up over
No,
Flash
I'm
Wolves?
not. That's not the argument I'm making, but I do just believe that having Flash Wolves as #3 is just a little too high for me. I'm fine with like putting Fnatic at 4 or 5. Just who else goes above
So
them?
Flash Wolves is if you're not happy with Flash Wolves 3, you have Fnatic at 3.
I was convinced coming into the tournament that Fnatic would be 5. Like,
Okay.
So I was, from the very get-go, I thought that they were better than IG.
Someone's got to go 3rd, Betty.
Yeah.
I realize you're saying like,
Someone's
I'm
gotta
gonna
Vacate
say
the spot.
Fnatic is third.
I think the 3rd should remain empty for now.
Fnatic's still 4th, but 3rd just doesn't exist.
overhyped
But so you think Flash Wolves looks better right now more as a product of the opponents in their group
Yes.
than their own play?
That's why, like, I'm just a little hesitant. But I think it is
Yeah.
fair to say that, yeah, I would not be against putting Flash Wolves above Fnatic. I think that is a perfectly fine argument. But I am just, I'm hesitant for the return. Because we saw it in group stages, the MSI too, where Flash Wolves had a really convincing group stages. They looked really strong, but then they came into the best of 5s and they weren't able to hold up.
Yeah, and what I like so much about doing this, thinking long and hard about the games that we've seen, is how hopeful it is for so many teams when you have Afrika and Gen G both at 0-2. So when I would extend this down, I'd still have those Korean teams in top 8 because they have 5 world championships worth of hope in the back burner as they won the last 5. Like, surely they'll turn it around. But just the fact that one more loss means it's a historic level of losses for them in the group stage since 2014 allows you to put all these other teams above them. And I think it'll make for a very entertaining rest of the group stage and rest of the tournament when so many different regions have that claim to the top 5 spots.
I mean, the groups have never felt so open as now, as when LCK seems to be underperforming.
I agree. And the only convincing teams right now, in my eyes, are KT and RNG, the ones that clearly look like by far and away the favorites in their group.
Right.
And we still don't fully know Group D. We don't fully know how Group A is going to play out. And like as we've been discussing, that one like the 3 to 5 or 3 onwards, I think you could fill up with a variety of different teams.
Yeah, go ahead.
Sorry, the Flash Wolves, I think they deserve to be 3rd. I can't get over that. They took down Afrika when Afrika were performing much better, and it was like a real slugfest of a game, versus like if the logic is, Afrika underperforming, G2 underperforming, that group is just easy, you then look at Fnatic, You want to talk about an easy group right now in terms of
100%.
performance.
I mean, let's talk
You're
about
right.
the hard groups Korea drew this year.
We'll just
right?
yeah, very tough
LCK
group.
team in every group.
Okay, let me ask you the question this way, Vegas.
All right.
Who does Fnatic lose to in this tournament of all 16 teams?
Well, I think they can lose to IG. I think they can lose to RNG. They can lose to KT. They can lose to Genji. And that's
Could is
Okay,
the operative word.
Could is the operative word, but I'm just trying to get a sense of if Flash Wolves doesn't belong in 3 above Fnatic.
But again, that's
Who-
what I'm trying to say is, maybe I didn't convey my point well enough, is that I am not convinced that Flash Wolves is the 3rd best team in the league based on the performance of everyone else in their group, right?
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
Now, that's not to say that Fnatic is necessarily way more dominant, because I haven't seen them play against IG yet. That will decide a lot for me, because they play against 100 Thieves. That doesn't tell me a lot about the strength of Fnatic. But Flash Wolves right now, they beat Afrika, who haven't shown anything in my eyes, which is why I'm just like, for now, yes, in terms of power rankings, you can put them at number 3, but I'm just not entirely convinced as of right now that they are the 3rd best team at the World Championship.
That's very fair.
And I think that's totally reasonable. Now my question is, if Fnatic do beat Invictus Gaming, and
Immediately number 2 for Fnatic, straight up there, without a doubt.
Oh boy, it's going to be a fun day. Day 3 begins with the clash between KT and Mad Team, followed by NALCS champions Team Liquid versus Edward Gaming. From there, mid-lane superstars, Caps and Rookie face off in Fnatic versus IG, with 100 Thieves and G-Rex looking for their first win in the following game. At the end of the day, Group B will close out their first round robin with MSI champions RNG looking to stay undefeated. Now, while we go into today's matches with a sense of excitement, LCK expert Papa Smithy, he's just trying to keep it together. Papa, how you doing over there?
Oh, hi. I didn't see you guys over there. Honestly, Dash, I'm not doing so well. Not doing so well at all. I'm trying to make sense of the fact that we're living in a world where Korea started 1-4. It's never been like this before. And I'm also grappling with the reality that Genji, Afrika, 0-4, weird stuff. And it's just kind of doing a number on me. I'm wondering, did we send the best 3 teams from Korea? I think about some of the men that did not make it here and wonder how they do. And if I'm being honest, you know, I'm having a little bit of trouble sleeping. It's been a bit of a struggle. Haven't found time to shave. That part, it's not working out. And my hair, I think it was thicker 2 days ago. Didn't check the VODs, but that's the way I look at it. But there is a ray of sunshine in all of this. There is one ray, and that, of course, is KT Rolster. They are the super team that came in as the #1 seed from the LCK, and to me, they really can turn this tournament around for the LCK. Now, you look at these men here on the roster, Smeb, Score, Yukal, Deft, and Mada, and I'm able to answer an important question. People ask me, okay, I understand RNG. They're winning, I'm looking at Uzi. But for KT, who do I look at? Who is the carrier of this team? And to be honest, all these men on their day can be the primary carry of KT Rolster. Smeb, Score, Yukal, Deft, and Mada on their day can be a primary carry, but that's just some words. Why don't we show you what's possible? We'll begin with the 2014 World's MVP in Mada. He's largely been on the Tahm Kench and also the Shen, but he makes a shielding support into an engaged support, winning games when it's important. We zoom over to Smeb, who, of course, needs no introduction for his engaged play. Kennen, most famous for years past, but also in the LCK just weeks ago, making a big engage that really propelled them to the final. And then we end it with Yukal, who, of course, was the rookie of this lineup, not an elder statesman. Well, he started off as a Tier 1 trick, but he's added some big picks, and this Azir Shurima shuffle will confirm to you that he can also, on his day, be the primary carry. Now, it's one thing to have 5 primary carries. For KT Rolster, it took them the better part of 2 years and a mid-lane change. No longer Pawn and Yukal, like we mentioned, had to come in, so they had the ability to drop back from 5 people competing to be the primary carry to 1 primary carry on the day and the rest of the members supporting them and knowing their time will come. That's the great thing about KT Rolster, and they also have needed to inherit this pride of being the first seed from Korea. Kingzone, unable to do that. SK Telecom, not here. They have the clutch players. Can they be the clutch team for Korea? That is the question you and I will both understand by the end of this tournament. And if they can pull it all together, we may get another priceless moment from Smeb like that Kennen ultimate.
G2 are pushing down here in the bot lane. They're going to take this tier 2.
At 13 minutes, G2 take the 5th tower of the game, extend the gold once more. and look like they'll go for the dragon.
They have double mountain drakes. It speaks to their strengths of being able to burst down the Baron, and they're hoping to get rocked to pull up.
Gets rooted, they're going!
Teleport's coming in. Curtain Call and Wish have already been used. And Trick is running away. Expect gets caught out. He's got a PA, remember, but he needs Mega. Oh, no! Delete it! Remember, I've seen one. And G2 are aced. The best timing I may have ever seen on a Cannon Ultimate. That was insane.
I think it's absolutely insane that Korea is sitting at 1-4.
Afrika was just dominated, starting out 0-2 in what was meant to be their group.
And here comes the dive. Corky J is far to look for Ruler. He flashes, but he's still been caught. The knockup, and RNG, a 2-0 start to Worlds, the defending champions, 0-2. What?
You do have to keep in mind that their #1 seed has only played one of those games. I expect them to bounce back to a point.
One of the many marquee matchups that we have here at the World Championship, Caps Rookie.
Rookie got MVP of the LPL region. He has been looking like one of the strongest, if not the strongest mid laner in the whole world.
Well, he's gone to the back line. Rookie's hoping to get even more on this one. The third kill is in. They're looking for number 4. Olaf's got nowhere to go. Goodbye. A quick team fight out for IG.
I want to see how I do against him, and I want to try to prove myself early in the tournament.
Great stun. Caps looking for it. Does put the Vanguard dead. Flash forward. That's a solo kill. Caps, but that's still going to be the case here. Caps looking at a solo kill again. It's happening again. Fnatic styled all over 100 Thieves.
And Caps, you have to say, living up to the hype so far.
캡 선수 잘하는데 봐야 되겠어요. 얼마나 잘하는지.
Welcome back to World's Countdown, where we're about 9 minutes away from Game 1. And while this is an important chapter for a lot of superstars hitting the stage today, the long road to arrive here can't be overlooked. So let's get a refresher on their stories and our players to watch for today, starting with Fnatic's Caps.
Now, the mid laner for Fnatic, he started his LCS career back in 2017 when he joined the Fnatic squad after their big roster shuffle. Throughout the year, he kind of had up and down performances, trying to be a big carry for his team and not really finding consistency. At the World Championship last year, he kind of showed up, but not really. He didn't really make a name for himself. It wasn't until MSI that we really got to see the true potential of Caps.
Yeah, and I really do think he's taken a leap between 2017 and 2018. We've seen the Fnatic coaching staff talk about it. We've seen Reckless talk about it, how he was a good mechanical player who could play his lane in 2017, but now he can play the whole map and really be the carry of the team. We saw this mostly in the summer split when they were diversifying styles, switching out bot laners, switching out top laners, and he nearly unanimously won the MVP in Europe. So he has leveled up so much in the past year, even though he was still pretty good in 2017.
We saw that stat, 17 solo kills in 2018 summer in Europe.
Five
yesterday. Are you kidding me? On the Aurelia pick into the Syndra. And the next guy I want to talk about is who he's matching up against today. Rookie, same thing. Played that Aurelia Syndra matchup yesterday. Absolutely dominated with it.
Yeah, formerly of the LCK, Rookie joined the LPL after 2014. So he's been in the region for 3 years, and he is now the face as a career Korean of Invictus Gaming. Now, Rookie himself finally just found his first berth in an LPL finals this summer split, wasn't able to lift the crown, but he is a back-to-back MVP of both spring and summer. And while he is hailed as being the best mid laner in the LPL, a lot of people put him in the conversation of best mid laner in the world.
And that's the crazy thing. When you talk to so many different mid laners, everyone has always said Faker is the best mid laner in the world. And Rookie usually narrowly misses out at the World Championship, so we haven't gotten to see him on the stage. But that's what everyone's been waiting to see, right? How will he actually perform? Because he's been so amazing, he just hadn't been able to win in the LPL to get here.
I mean, the darkest timeline was the fact that we never got to see really Faker at his prime and Rookie at his prime really crash. And it feels like we're constantly missing those windows, but now he gets a shot at the Caps. So,
those two players will face off in the third matchup of the day. Of course, the first matchup involves KT Rolster, and the last player I want to talk about here is Score in the jungle.
Yeah, we saw Papa Smithy touching on a lot of the KT Rolster members, but this guy, it was quite fitting that he was able to win the LCK title for the first time this year after playing in every LCK season prior and falling up short. And now he's in a situation after watching so many other Korean teams win the World Championship where it almost has to be him now, because Afrika and Genji have started 0-2, so the pressure has been turned up, but this is the year where he's been able to stand up to that pressure, win the LCK. Now he's just got to continue the transition.
Well, with those players taking to the stage today, I'm going to gauge the analyst's faith in these players, or rather these stars, in today's predictions. Throwing those up on the screen.
What?
I'm seeing...
Ross Curran?
Gas!
Where's the IG prediction?
You wait, what? Hang on a minute. That's not what we agreed.
That's not what I agree with production either, so.
Is it an IG prediction for you?
It's an IG prediction.
Okay, good to know, good to know.
Okay.
Wrong graph.
We have Frost predicting EDG over TL, Vedius and Jat putting faith in that Team Liquid squad, and then we'll make that substitution in IG over Fnatic. But those seem to be the contentious matchups of the day. Everything else pretty determined, even though this tournament has proven it can be anything but.
So far, we've seen Korea struggle. I think today is the day we see the LPL start to struggle, because I think that Team Liquid have looked, their first opposition was against one of the best teams at the tournament, if not the best team at the tournament. And I think that they're a team that is very smart, they learn very quickly, and they have very clear potential to be able to shut down EDG just through better teamwork.
And see, on the other side, for me, I agree. I think the teamwork, the macro is all there for Team Liquid. I did have Edward Gaming in this, simply because pound for pound talent, I do believe that they win out individually, particularly in that mid lane. Pole Belter, unfortunately, was really exposed in the Syndra versus Ryze matchup, died multiple times, and the only reason that Edward Gaming are here is because of how well Scout is playing. And I think with Clearlove joining the roster, it can shore up a lot of the macro performance and carry Edward
And
Gaming.
Jad, I think it's reasonable to have a lot of reservation around the Team Liquid squad based on their MSI performance. This is a team that we saw as soon as they came into any amount of adversity, they really crumbled.
It's what happened at MSI, and you saw a lot of those same things happening, in my opinion, against KT Rolster. And Doublelift even said in the interview after the game that the team was playing scared, they were hesitant, and that is par for the course of what they said when they had the disastrous opening at MSI. But one thing I will say is they were able to course correct at MSI, pulling a streak of wins at the end, one of them over RNG, and actually getting to a tiebreaker game. So the hope would be that with the day off, they can course correct a little bit faster this time, because they need to. I'm putting a little bit of faith in them to be able to do that, which is why Vedius and I both predicted.
But I'm really curious about your Fnatic prediction, because I mean, we obviously are going IG Fnatic, but you're the deciding one.
Apparently, I just swung it. I had them one higher rank above. So this one is a little bit based off of pre-tournament expectations. And I was expecting Invictus Gaming to be running the Shy, because I feel like they are trying to be actors when they play with Duke and play like a macro-heavy team, when I really feel like their true strength lies in consistently outplaying people in 1v1 situations. And the Shy is way better at that than Duke. So in that case, I don't think they're going to outclass Fnatic enough individually, and then Fnatic might be able to take them post 25 minutes.
All right, let's narrow our focus into the first matchup of the day. Despite the performance of LCK's other two seeds, KT Rolster are still looking like clear favorites in this group.
Yeah, I think that based on how KT played on day one, to me, it was very controlled. They were able to execute upon their win conditions very clearly, and every play that TL tried to make, they were very quick to respond and shut down. And just because of how effective they looked, in my eyes, in their game versus Team Liquid, they're looking like very heavy favorites coming into this match.
And it's the terrifying way of how they dominate a map. For me, when I look at a team like KT Rolster, Papa Smithy talked about it over there, but it's the fact that you can pick pretty much anyone on this roster. It's not even just about, Smeb, UCal, and Deft. And, normally UCal's not even in that conversation, but after that Syndra performance can definitely be there. But someone like Mata can straight hard carry a game for KT Rolster on some of these playmaking supports like Alistar, which are so in the meta right now.
So then what's the source of recourse for Mad Team? How do we identify, or how do we think of this team's chances going up against a powerhouse like KT?
I think Mad Team needs to build on what they did in the EDG game, where we actually saw them have some fairly strong mid-game team fights. We saw Kongu have some good fights in the early game to get the counter ganks off. I thought Breeze and K were actually very strong. The bottom lane for Mad Team with the Ezreal. Spawn did a good segment if you wanted to go back and watch it for the pregame before that one, talking about how they can utilize the Ezreal to get the 1-3-1 going, because even though KT did look impressive post 20 minutes against Team Liquid, the first 20 minutes were actually fairly pedestrian in that one. So if they get into that moment, you can have a winnable game for Mad Team.
You want to go?
Yeah, I do. Because I want to just...
Yes.
I love it.
Because I want to talk about the confidence that we also saw from this team. The fact that they were willing to match up against EDG in all of the early skirmishes.
Yep.
And we're going toe-to-toe in many of the fights. Like, LPL is one of the best team fighting regions in the world. And the fact that we saw Mad Team, like, often, like, matching them and just making a couple of crucial mistakes later on into the game gives me a lot of optimism that I'm expecting more action in this game compared to the last time we saw KT play.
All right, Frost, you get to close us out.
I think that Smeb is absolutely going to destroy Mad Team's top laner. I think that's the biggest weakness that they have. His target selection in some of those crucial team fights was a big issue and a downfall. So unfortunately, I think as long as
Jad,
they can
I'm
insulate
struggling to
that-
figure out who you think is going to win this game.
Blue KT, white KT,
or black KT. I don't know. Too many options, right?
Yeah.
Too many options. All right, well, there you have it. Time to get started with today's action. So let's head over to Pastry Time, Spawn, and Deficio for game one.